Good morning, my name's David Pengilly, and today I'm going to show you how to change the coil over shock absorbers on a E-type Jaguar nice and easily and very safely. Okay, here we have a standard Lockheed shock absorber. Here we have a standard Lockheed shock absorber off a 1969 E-type Jag, but it's the same on all E-type Jags right from the start right through to the Series 3s. So you've got the shock absorber, and it's got a sort of a floating cover which just stops the dust getting onto the polished shaft there. And what we've got to do, so you've got to get this shock absorber sitting nicely inside that spring. Right, so that's the assembly. Now we've got to use spring compressors to force this spring down so that we can put a collar over the top of the shock absorber. That's there. Once the collar's on, we need to put these two, which I'll call collets. There's two of them, and they have to fit inside that ring, and to do that they have to slip under this shoulder, which is currently right down here. So we've got to compress this spring about 40 millimeters or 1.5 inches, and that preloads the spring and the shock absorber for road use, and then we've got to put these collets in. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. Now the normal way to do it is using a pair of spring compressors like this, and you hook those onto the spring, one on each side, and then using a spanner on the top of there, you tighten them up until you compress that spring down 1.5 inches until you can get that collet on. And the problem with that is that as you pull these tight on the spring, they start to move round at an angle because of the way the spring is made. That pulls the spring over at an angle, and these dig into the shock absorber, damaging it, and it means you just can't, it's very difficult to get that square and to then get your collets in the top. It is a super difficult job. It's one of the most difficult jobs in car restoration. So this is how you do it. Okay, this is the key to the job. I made a very simple jig out of a piece of wood, and in the middle here, it would have been best as a round hole, but I didn't have any to make a round hole that big, so I've used 4 25 or inch holes there, joined up together with a chisel. And on the back of the piece of wood, I've relieved it here, here and here, and that is going to be apparent in a minute why that is. Okay, so with this wooden jig on the workbench, I'm going to place the shock absorber into the hole in the middle so it's vertical, nice and steady on there. And then what I'm going to do, so I'm going to hook those under the bottom of the wood and hook them onto the spring at the top. So that's in the right place now to compress that spring. I'll put one on the other side. Obviously you want to fix them as far up the spring as you can, because that gives the most coils to compress. It makes the job a little bit easier. But the most important thing is that everything is nice and straight. Okay, so that's the jig in place. It is a dangerous job compressing big strong springs, so take every opportunity to make the workplace safe. And the number one rule is don't put your head over the top of that spring while you're compressing it in case something does slip off. So there we go, I've got two workbench clamps. I've clamped it onto the workbench. And now I'm going to compress that spring. So I'm using a 10mm wrench or socket. You can see as I tighten it, the spring starts to bend over this way. When I've done enough so it's bent all the way over, then I do the other side. I just continue doing this until the spring comes down the shock absorber. Now it's pulled back over the other side. Now you can see it's starting to come down, and also that shock absorbers can obviously be pushed in and out, and I've got it pulled up to its maximum extent, so that minimises the amount of tension we need on the spring. Now you can see that we're getting there. There's just a little bit further to go, and the goal is to put the collar on and then to get the collets inside here, and they have to fit under this shoulder, so there's still about another centimetre to go, I'd say. Right, now you can see the shoulder starting to come up through the top of the shock absorber. So we're nearly there. Let's try one, see if we can get it on. Not quite, a bit more. Looking more promising. Try that. Okay, so that's the first one on. And here's the second collet. Let's see if that will go in. Pretty good. Don't put your head over the top, and don't use a hammer to knock it in. Okay, so that's both of them sitting in nicely there. Now we can start to loosen it off. Now those collets are in there, it becomes a safe job because the shock absorber and the spring are not going to fly off the bench. They're both fixed together. takes the other one off. So there you have it. That's the shock absorber finished. That took about 5 minutes. It wasn't dangerous, it was nice and controlled, so 3 more to go. My name's David Pengilly. Thank you very much for watching.